Whenever I read about this bill, I go, oh, well, that seems like a good idea if I'm worth $10 billion. Or I say, oh, this seems like a good idea if I hate government services and want to slash them.
How in the hell do we normalize a guy running for president with the richest man in the world on the stage with him at the same time? And at inauguration, the 4 richest people in the world at his side.
Right there.
I mean, that is a fucking 180-degree fucking switch in America, being like, okay, now we're sucking the dicks of all these guys.
Makes me sick.
It does.
You know, when I think about, I know exactly what you're talking about. That inauguration where you had Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Joe Rogan, and Rogan fancies himself this big stand-up comedian, and he loves George Carlin. And George Carlin has that famous bit.
Oh, he would be like, "Fuck you."
Well, he has that famous bit where he's like, "It's a big club, and we ain't in it." Yeah. And now it's
acceptable.
The most prominent stand-up comedian in America, Joe Rogan, appears to be saying, so I've talked to the people who run the big club, and they're actually really cool, and you should just do whatever they say.
I love them.
And it's
They're
just
good
like
guys.
George Carlin would be spinning in his grave if he knew what was going on.
Well, I think what separates, in my opinion, is a guy like Zinke, he's on those lands, and a guy like Russell, just having met him, completely different guy, you know. And I think moderate America, I think the majority of America wants to see us get away from that stuff. Wouldn't you assume so?
I mean, you'd hope so. The problem is,
so.
can they see the obvious? That's the thing that,
Right.
How do you get them there?
So you've been campaigning across, western Montana.
Yeah, when did you start campaigning? Like a month ago?
April 15th.
Have you heard that sentiment? Like people that are like, look, I like to sit down and, because I've said this before, all my conservative friends, think I'm too liberal. All my liberal friends think I'm too conservative.
Yes.
I love them all the same. I love them all the same. So have you heard that when you've traveled across Montana? Is this a breath of fresh air where people are like, we can actually talk without screaming at each other? And, just because my parents voted for Trump doesn't mean I hate them and, cut them out of my lives.
There are words.
Well, I think the big question that's asked is, are you sure you're a Democrat? Because you seem like an independent.
Yeah.
And the response is, look, independents don't win in a two-party system, right?
That's the problem.
And just like you guys asked me in the beginning, it was like, look, the spectrum's moving. You're going to move with the spectrum farther right, which I refuse to do.
Fuck yeah.
Or you accept that you're going farther left on the spectrum.
I call people MAGA. I don't call them conservatives or Republicans.
They're not. It's a different party.
MAGA's fucking, it's different.
100%.
But for some reason, the minority is running it.
Yeah.
But the midterm elections are different than presidential elections.
They are.
Let's not forget that. And so midterms, more educated folks tend to turn out.
You're right.
And so the electorate.
So the Democrats got a chance.
The Democrats clearly have a chance. The electorate is not the same every election.